In this lesson, we'll explore hybrid toolpaths and how they may be more suitable for machining areas like we tried earlier with the waterline toolpaths. Now to start, I'm simply going to take the waterline toolpath that we did earlier. I'm going to right-click and copy afterwards. And by doing so, I don't have to worry about selecting that geometry again, or the containment regions, or the tooling, or anything like that. But we can go in here and make drastic changes, and then investigate the differences. So the first thing we're going to do here is go into our toolpath type, and we're going to choose hybrid. Now, the hybrid toolpath will address steep and shallow areas, and it does this by utilizing both a scallop and a constant Z or waterline approach. So in steep areas, you'll see more of a waterline approach, but in more of the shallow areas, you'll see a constant scallop toolpath. And the toolpath switches seamlessly between those two based on the shape of the geometry, and it cuts it all in a pretty logical, optimized order. So once we change this to hybrid, we'll go back to the tool setting, and we're just going to change this to hybrid. Because remember, we copied the toolpath, so it will also copy the comment as well. And we're going to keep the same tool, obviously. And under model geometry, we'll keep the same model geometry. We'll keep the same distance away from the walls and the floors as well, just so we can compare these two toolpaths. And we'll also keep the same containment region. However, under cut parameters, you'll know that we have a step down now, and we have this thing called limiting angle, as well as a 3D step over. The limiting angle is the angle that defines the shallow region of the part compared to more of the steep region. And a typical limiting angle might be 45 degrees, and Mastercam will add or remove cuts in this area that ranges from 0 to the limiting angle. So let's go from 0 to 45. And we'll explore that first. We'll click OK. And notice that it's not going to regenerate automatically because we copied the toolpath, so it just thinks we're editing it. So we have to recalculate it here. And then what we can do with this toolpath is we can copy it, adjust something if needed, and compare it to the original hybrid toolpath. Okay, so with this hybrid toolpath selected, here is the waterline toolpath. And here is the hybrid toolpath. So as you can see, the hybrid toolpath has a waterline in the steep areas, and then as it gets to that limiting angle, it changes over to a constant scallop toolpath. And just as an experiment, let's take and copy the hybrid toolpath, and we're going to make another hybrid toolpath. We'll delete it when we're done. But in here, we'll adjust the limiting angle from 45 to 25, which means that the constant scallop will start at 0 and only go up until it hits about 25 degrees. Right now, it's going up until it hits about 45 degrees and then changing over to waterline. Okay, so with this hybrid toolpath created with an adjusted limiting angle, let's first look at the original one. And as you can see, in this area is where it does scallop. And now let's look at the limiting angle of 25 at 20 degrees, and you can see it's much shallower here. So in this particular case, it uses the scallop toolpath until it hits about this 20 or 25 degree mark, and then it changes to waterline. And this is a good example where I think operation number 35 would be more suited because you have the constant scallop toolpath up until waterline kicks in up here, and in this case you're doing a more vertical change, so it's much more efficient, and you probably get a better surface finish out of it. But in any case, that's how you can compare settings between the two. I'm going to right click and delete this one because we don't need it. But that's a little bit about the hybrid toolpath and how it compares to waterline. In the next lesson, we'll explore the equal scallop toolpath as yet again another option for machining complex surfaces. So we'll explore this toolpath and see how it compares to both the waterline toolpath, and the hybrid that we just explored.